will all suffer!
The spirits are not at peace. One among us has stolen from the river.
The return of the river. The villagers had gathered in wild celebration when the Eddy River, after weeks of painful absence, began to flow again. Clay pots clinked, women danced barefoot on the moist banks, and children splashed in shallow waters, their laughter rising like birds released from a cage. It was as though life itself had returned to the land. Yet, in the shadows, not all hearts were free from fear. The river might have come back, but the memory of its drying had left scars deeper than the cracked riverbed. Elderly women muttered under their breath, "The river spirits never forgive easily. Water that disappears once may disappear again." Etim, the old priest, stood apart from the crowd, leaning on his carved wooden staff. His wrinkled face bore no smile. His eyes, clouded by years, yet sharp with spiritual sight, scanned the river's surface. He saw more than flowing water. He saw unease, an undercurrent that whispered warnings. Okong, the hunter, tried to blend into the celebration, forcing laughter, pretending to dance with the men. Yet sweat trickled down his forehead, though the evening was cool. Inside his mud hut, hidden from curious eyes, the mermaid child lay on a raffia mat, glowing faintly as though her very body breathed moonlight. The child of the river. Kem, Okong's wife, had not joined the celebration. She remained in the hut, sitting on a low stool, her hands trembling as she stared at the baby. The little girl was beautiful, too beautiful to belong to mortals. Her skin was pale and radiant, like fresh cowrie shells, her tiny tail shimmering whenever she shifted. Sometimes she gurgled, a sound that was not like a normal child's cooing. It was like water dripping into a clay pot, like waves brushing against the riverbank. Kem's children, Afia and Amphon, hid behind their mother, staring at the baby with fearful fascination. "Ma, is she human or spirit?" Kem pressed a finger to her lips. "Silence. If your father hears you speak, he will grow angry. Do not ever mention this child outside." But silence did not calm Kem's own spirit. That night, as she tried to sleep, she dreamt of the mermaid mother, her eyes glowing with sorrow, her hair floating in dark waters. The mermaid stretched her hand toward Kem, whispering in a voice like rushing streams, "Return my child, or your household will drown in sorrow." Kem woke with a scream, her wrapper soaked in sweat. The baby's eyes were open, glowing faintly in the darkness. Etem's warning. The next market day, the priest Etem summoned the village to the square. Men and women gathered, the chatter subdued. The air was heavy with expectation. "My people," Etem began, raising his staff, "do not rejoice too quickly. The river has returned, but its heart is wounded. The spirits are not at peace. A life was taken unjustly, and a child was stolen. Until this wrong is made right, sorrow will linger among us." The crowd murmured uneasily. Some looked toward Okong, who kept his head low, his jaw clenched. One man called out, "Etum, are you saying someone among us has angered the river?" Etum's eyes scanned the crowd slowly, pausing for a moment too long on Okong. Then he spoke. "The river itself will reveal the thief. Wait and see." Fear gripped the people. They remembered how quickly the water had vanished before, leaving their pots empty and their children thirsty. Nobody wished for that curse to return. Strange signs. That very evening, strange things began to happen. Women who fetched water from the Eddy River swore they saw a woman's face ripple across the surface, weeping silently. A fisherman returned with nets torn apart by unseen hands. Children playing by the bank came home shivering, saying they heard a baby crying beneath the waves, though no child was there. Whispers spread like fire. "The mermaid spirit is haunting the river." Inside his hut, Okong grew restless. The child of the river cried often now, not like before. Her cries shook the walls, the sound like waves crashing against rocks. Sometimes water pooled mysteriously on the floor, though no jar had been spilled. Chem pleaded with him, "Okong, can't you see? This child does not belong to us. Return her to where you took her before disaster strikes." But Okong's eyes glistened with greed. "Do you not see her beauty? Do you not know what she can bring us? She is a child of power. People will one day bow before her. She will make our lineage great." But Shem shook her head, "Or she will destroy us." Dreams of drowning. That night, the entire village shared a nightmare. Men, women, and even little children dreamt they were standing by the river when suddenly waves rose higher than palm trees and swallowed them whole. In the dream, they saw the mermaid, her hair flowing like weeds, her eyes glowing with fury, her baby clutched tight against her chest. When the villagers woke, their mats were damp as though they had slept in water. Fear gnawed at their hearts. Etum gathered the elders. "This is no ordinary curse. The spirits cry out for the child to be returned." The elders nodded. "But who has the child?" one asked. Etum's voice was grave. "The river itself already knows, and soon we all shall know." The baby spoke. Days turned into weeks. The child grew, not like a normal baby, but faster, stranger. By the time a moon cycle passed, she was already crawling. Her tail glimmered like polished metal, and when she touched water, it danced as though alive. One evening, as Chem bathed her, the baby turned her glowing eyes upward and spoke. Not babbled, not cried, spoke. "Mother," the child whispered, her voice soft like waves. Chem froze, her hands trembling. "I am not your mother." But the child only smiled, water dripping from her hair, though no gourd had been poured. Chem ran to Okong. "The baby speaks. She is not human. She will bring death upon us all." Okong slapped his chest with pride. "Then she is greater than us. This is why she must remain. She is a gift of power." But deep in his heart, even Okong feared the truth. The priest's revelation. At dawn, Etim climbed the sacred hill overlooking the river. He burned incense, chanting to the spirits of water and sky. His voice echoed through the valley. The villagers watched from below as mist rose from the river, coiling like snakes around the trees. The water shimmered, and then a vision appeared. The mermaid mother, her face radiant yet sorrowful, holding out her hands. A voice thundered from the depths of the water. "My child is among you. Return her, or I will return sorrow." The crowd gasped. Mothers clutched their children. Men glanced nervously at one another. Some eyes fell on Okong, who shifted uneasily. Etim pointed his staff toward the village. "The spirits have spoken. We must search every hut." The village turned. Fear turned to suspicion. Neighbors eyed one another with distrust. Whispers grew louder. It must be Okong. Was he not last seen hunting by the river? His wife has not fetched water since that day. What is she hiding? Kem, inside the hut, pressed her children close. "Your father has brought doom upon us," she murmured. Okong, hearing the commotion outside, gripped his machete. "Let them come. No one will take what is mine." But the baby mermaid only looked at him, her glowing eyes unreadable, her tail swishing softly against the mat, as though she already knew her fate. The villagers gathered outside Okong's hut, chanting angrily. Etim stood at the front, his staff glowing faintly in the fading light. "Okong!" he called, his voice like thunder. "The spirits do not lie. Return what you have taken, or none of us will see peace." Inside, Okong's breath grew heavy. Kem wept silently, clutching her children. The baby mermaid rose to her tiny feet, her glowing tail brighter than ever. Then the ground trembled. A deep rumble came from the river, as though the earth itself had taken a breath. And in that moment, everyone knew the spirits were ready to act.
The siege of Okong's hut. The air outside Okong's hut was thick with anger and fear. Villagers held sticks, hoes, and flaming torches, their shadows dancing against the mud walls. The evening sky had turned grey, clouds swaddling the moon, as if nature itself sided with their wrath. Etim raised his staff, and silence fell over the crowd. "Okong," he said again, voice heavy with authority. "The spirits do not lie. Return what you have taken, or none of us will see peace." Inside, Okong gripped his machete tightly, his chest heaving. His wife, Chem, knelt at his feet, tears streaking her face. "Please, my husband," she begged, "this child is not ours. Return her before we are all destroyed." But Okong's pride was sharper than any blade. "This child is mine. I found her. I saved her from death. No man will take her from me." The baby mermaid tilted her head, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Her lips parted as if to speak, but only a ripple of sound came forth, like rushing water breaking stones. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, pots shattered, goats bleated in panic, and villagers screamed. From the direction of the river came a roar, not of any beast, but of water itself, angry, alive. The river's wrath. Without warning, a water of water surged from the eddy river, rolling toward the village like a dark monster. Women dropped their torches, men scattered in terror, but before it reached the huts, the water stopped abruptly, towering like a living wall, as though held back by unseen hands. And then, from within the water, she appeared, the Mermaid Mother. Her body towered half above the wave, her hair streaming like dark seaweed, her eyes glowing brighter than fire. In her arms, she held nothing. Her arms were empty, stretched toward the village. "Return, my child," her voice thundered, shaking the earth. The villagers fell to their knees, wailing. Etam alone stood firm, his staff planted in the earth. "Okong," he cried, "the spirits themselves demand justice. End this madness." Okong staggered, sweat pouring down his face, yet stubbornness held his tongue. He raised his machete and shouted, "I will not bow. The child is mine." The villagers gasped, horror twisting their faces. Jem's choice. Inside the hut, Jem's heart pounded. She looked at the baby, whose glow grew brighter with every passing second. The child's tiny hands reached upwards, as though yearning for her true mother. Jem knew then the curse would not end until the child was returned, and if Okong would not do it, she must. Tears burning her eyes, she scooped the baby into her arms. "Forgive me," she whispered, "but I cannot watch my children die for your pride." She ran out of the hut, the glowing child clutched to her chest. The villagers gasped as Jem appeared, the baby shining like a star in her arms. "Here," she cried to the towering mermaid in the water, "take back your child." But before she could reach the river, Okong's roar split the air. "No!" He lunged after her, machete raised high. Blood on the ground. In the chaos, time seemed to slow. Jem stumbled forward, the baby crying loudly now, her voice like crashing waves. Okong's machete flashed in the torchlight as he swung. The villagers screamed. But before the blade could strike Jem, a force unseen threw Okong backward. He crashed to the ground, the weapon flying from his hand. Etam's staff glowed fiercely. The old priest stood with arms outstretched, chanting words older than memory. "Spirit of water, spirit of sky, let justice reign." Okong writhed on the ground, clutching his chest as though invisible hands squeezed the life from him. His eyes bulged, his mouth foamed, yet he spat curses. "She is mine, mine!" The baby wailed louder, her glow now blinding. Jem knelt, holding her high toward the mermaid in the wave. The wave roared, and from its crest the mermaid mother stretched out her arms. The baby, as though pulled by unseen currents, floated gently from Jem's grasp into the embrace of her true mother. The moment mother and child touched, the wave calmed. The roar softened to a hum, like a lullaby. The glow around them spread across the river, turning it silver. The villagers gasped, bowing low. Some wept with relief, others with awe. But Okong's screams pierced the silence. He thrashed violently, his body twisting as the water itself was inside him, crushing him. Etam's voice thundered, "The spirits do not forgive greed. This is your punishment." And with that, Okong's body dissolved into water, melting into the soil where he lay. Only his machete remained, rusted instantly to dust.
The spirits speak. The mermaid mother, cradling her child, turned her gaze upon the villagers. Though her eyes glowed, They no longer burned with rage. You were innocent, her voice echoed, soft yet heavy. But one among you brought this curse. Let his fate be a lesson. Never again raise your hand against the river. Never again steal what belongs to the spirits. Etim bowed low, striking his staff to the ground. We hear, we obey. The mermaid lowered her head, pressing her lips to the child's hair. Then, slowly she sank into the river, the waters closing over her form. The silver glow faded, and the eddy river flowed calmly once more. The villagers stood in stunned silence. Aftermath. For days, no one spoke of Okong. His hut was abandoned, his name cursed in whispers. Mothers warned their children never to wander near the river alone. Hunters offered sacrifices before entering the forest. Jem, broken yet relieved, lived quietly with her 2 children. Though many pitied her, some also blamed her, saying she should have spoken sooner. But Etim defended her. She did what her husband could not. Without her courage, none of us would be alive. The river flowed stronger than before, its waters clearer, its fish plentiful. Yet every time villagers fetched water, they did so with trembling hands, remembering the curse. And sometimes, late at night, if one listened closely, a soft lullaby could be heard rising from the river, the song of a mermaid mother soothing her child. The priest's final words. One evening, Etim gathered the villagers. His voice, though weak with age, carried weight. "My people," he said, "you have seen the power of the river. Know this, greed destroys, pride kills, but humility saves. Remember Okong, not for his strength, but for his downfall. Teach your children that some boundaries must never be crossed. The spirits are patient, but their justice is sure." The villagers nodded solemnly. And so the tale of the mermaid and the river became a song, passed from mouth to ear, from elders to children.
Dear listener, thank you for staying with this dark and suspenseful African tale. The story of the village river dried up after a mermaid was killed teaches us about greed, pride, and the consequences of offending the unseen spirits. This is just the beginning. Part 3 is coming soon, where we will explore whether the village truly learned its lesson or if another curse is waiting in the shadows. Don't forget, like this video, comment your thoughts, subscribe and turn on notifications, share with friends and family. Remember, new stories drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. right here on Zita's Stories, your home for dark and suspenseful African tales.